Hey there, I'm here with Jack Newton at ClioCon of Clio. Hey Jack, how's it going?
Hi Sam, good.
This is ClioCon number 7?
Number 7, yeah.
Yeah.
I think you've been to every one.
I've been to every single ClioCon.
Thank you for that.
And they just keep getting better and better.
Awesome, glad to hear it.
So I've got a few questions for you about Clio and about the future of Clio.
Sure.
Let me start with this. It feels silly to ask you this because everybody kind of knows what Clio is, but I know that you've been reframing how you think about it. You've been building on what Clio can do, what Clio is. You've been expanding it. So how would you describe Clio today to somebody who is wondering, what is this thing?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think that what we've been doing is obviously kind of continuously expanding our vision for what Clio can be.
Right.
And our first decade, I think, was really about building what we call the operating system for legal, the productivity workbench that lawyers can be more effective and more efficient. And I think, as you saw me set up in my keynote today, the next decade it's going to be about better connecting clients and lawyers. And we think there's so much innovation and so much great work to be done in terms of improving the client experience and helping lawyers both adopt tools that let them deliver better client experiences, but also simultaneously let them be more productive. And that's the magic sauce.
The way I describe to people, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like what you're doing is you're trying to learn as much as you can and then looking for opportunities to take the burden off of lawyers or make it just easier and more effortless for them to deliver better client experiences to their customers.
That's exactly it. We look at best practices, not just within legal, but across many industries, and look at what does innovation look like in delivering services to customers and to consumers. And we think there's so much opportunity for leveling up the playing field in terms of where lawyers are operating.
Yeah.
And that's really going to be what directs our product roadmap for the next decade, is thinking about what innovations can we adopt, what innovations can we develop from the ground up for legal that let lawyers deliver those better client experiences and tap into this unbelievable latent legal market that we think we can actually grow the overall size of the legal services market if we execute properly on that vision.
Yeah, you had a nice Venn diagram of like the existing legal market and the total potential size, the total opportunity.
Exactly. If legal was a startup, it would be a failing startup because it
the
has
product market fit
so
is
little product market fit. And what I would say is, like, that's not necessarily a negative message, but it's an optimistic one where we've just got that first little bit of traction. We've got $437 billion of legal services happening every year.
Yeah.
But you look at that market opportunity, you look at the 77% of consumers that are not being served by lawyers effectively. If you're a startup founder, you'd look at that opportunity and just say, like, oh my God, I've got a little glimmer of hope in this product market fit. I want to double down and increase that product market fit. And what we're trying to be basically is a partner to the legal industry as a whole and work with other innovative lawyers that want to go chase after that bigger opportunity with us, because I think it's a mindset thing as well as a technology thing.
For sure. Yeah.
And I think what we've believed from day zero and what you see with ClioCon is that a product is not enough.
Right.
You need to be educating people. Obviously, a lot of what you do with lawyers is about that as well. You need a mindset, you need an entrepreneurial mindset, and technology can help, but it's no panacea. And that's really, I think, what's become clear for me over the last 5 years, and why we're so excited about the next chapter of Clio's growth is we hope to catalyze this industry transformation, which is no small feat, but I think it's an exciting mission to be chasing after.
So you've announced a few new things here, and I know, like, one of my favorite things about ClioCon is you'll announce probably tomorrow some changes that you've made to the platform that you've learned about here at the conference.
Right.
But pick a couple of the highlights for what's new with Clio that you want people to know about.
Yeah, I think number one, something we shipped at the conference today is a ground-up rewrite of our mobile app.
Yeah, and I think I saw the very beginning of that a couple years ago.
We've been building at it and been really deliberate about doing a great job. And I think we built a mobile app that is not just definitively the best mobile app in legal, but we actually think it's one of the best mobile apps, period. Like, we've really put a lot of energy into designing a truly great customer experience, and we've thought really carefully about those workflows, the Starbucks lineup workflows we think about, which is, I've got 3 minutes while I line up for my latte. What work can I get done in those 3 minutes?
Well, and I really appreciated hearing from the design team about even small things like how you arrange the menu on the mobile app the buttons that are closest to where your thumb naturally sits
Right.
are the most frequently used options.
That's exactly it. You'll see a real depth of thought and care that's gone into the design of the UX there, and I think we have one of the most talented design teams.
They're very cool
around.
Yeah, it's
working
really
on this
neat
stuff.
to see them work. Okay, so I was going to ask you, like, what should a novice user do next with the software? But at your keynote just a couple hours ago, you dropped kind of a bomb around the research that you've been doing into responsiveness and law firms.
Right.
And so just lay it on us, because there's some low-hanging fruit there that would just make everything better in legal.
There's some low-hanging fruit. I mean, what we saw in our data, where we essentially launched this 1,000 law firms pilot test.
You hired an independent
We
research
hired an
agency.
independent research firm that surveyed 1,000 law firms and did essentially secret shopping.
Yeah.
Secret shopped 1,000 law firms. They had a persona of what looked like a legitimate lead or client for that law firm, and emailed 1,000 firms, and we phoned a subset of 500 of those firms. And in very broad strokes, what we saw is the response rate to the email was about 60% of our emails went unresponded.
Yeah, like no response.
No response. And then on the phone side, slightly over 60% of the phone calls were picked up, but then again, almost 40% were not.
Right.
And when we had to leave a voicemail with a firm, many of those voicemails, over half of those voicemails, were not returned within 72 hours.
It was like 71% of them were not returned in 3 days.
That's right. So,
and the most popular, I have to say this, like, you also qualified what counts as a quality response to an email.
That's right.
And a lot of the responses were, thanks for your email, please call me.
That's right.
Which just makes me want to punch somebody. What an awful response.
And I think, when we talk about access to justice, we often think, we often talk about this as if it's a big, heady, boil the ocean kind of problem that needs really smart minds put to work to solve this problem. And what our research shows is it's actually as simple as picking up the phone and answering an email. But we also know that lawyers are hardworking people. These aren't people that are deliberately ignoring an inbound lead, ignoring a phone call.
This isn't malicious.
It's not malicious. They're not turning away business at the door saying, I don't want your business. I think what it shows with utter clarity is how underwater the average lawyer is. And so what I think the very clear answer to is both technology and process that can help law firms become more responsive to clients. Here on the floor at ClioCon, we have at least 2 or 3 call answering services, like Ruby Receptionist.
Yeah, you can solve that problem.
That will pick up your phone, give you a good message, and even integrate directly with Clio, so that you can follow up with that lead within Clio. There's a range of options, both within Clio and within other marketing automation platforms, that let you be very responsive to email without any manual intervention. They can automate
and
all
you
of those workflows.
announced appointment booking is now going to be a part of Clio Grow.
We announced an appointment booking extension to Clio Grow, which is essentially, you can think of as a Calendly almost, directly built into Clio, fully integrated into Clio. And it's those kinds of things where you can automate your processes away, you can drive up your utilization rate, you can provide a better client experience, but also get clients you might have never gotten in the past. And to me, that's just the boundless opportunity that's in front of lawyers that, for all the talk about being heavily commodified and heavily competitive industry, you can see that it's actually some pretty straightforward things that let you really stand out from the crowd.
Well, and one of the other things from the Legal Trends Report is you dug into what drives growth.
That's right.
And there is a very clear answer that efficiency drives growth.
Yeah.
The firms that are growing, as opposed to the firms that are stagnant or shrinking, are firms that have figured out how to get more out of their time.
That's right. And you see that's almost got this amplifying effect on every aspect of the firm productivity, where these firms, over the course of a 5-year longitudinal study, basically start, they start off the same blocks.
The dots were totally overlapping.
Totally overlapping.
But one figured it out and the other didn't.
And that's the difference between success and failure, essentially. But I think the positive message here is these are all things that are highly in your control.
Yep.
And for lawyers that are looking for a playbook for how do I build a successful law firm, I think there's more tools and technologies and resources that set you up for that success than there's been in any point in history in legal. So I think it's an exciting time. And again, we want to shine a light on these things, not to make lawyers feel bad about their responsiveness to customers, but to highlight the opportunity. And really, like when you're asking about what's our vision for Clio, yeah, there's a platform and there's technology and there's a product underlying all of that. But at the end of the day, what we see our role as really being is a change agent that helps catalyze this really positive change in the industry, that the lawyers that come to join us on this movement and co-create what the future looks like are going to have wildly successful practices. They're going to be solving more real legal problems, and they're going to have thriving firms. And I think that's just and the industry as a whole can thrive, which I think is great for all the gnashing of teeth about lawyers being automated out of existence, and so on. I think there's real opportunity to build a growing and thriving law firm.
Thrive being the theme of this year's
Thrive
conference.
being the theme, exactly.
So speaking of the future, when you look out and project out, what is your vision for the legal industry that you are, I mean, to a certain extent, you're building Clio for firms 5 years from now and 10 years from now, as well as the firms of today.
That's right.
So what do the firms look like that your roadmap is going towards?
I think it's firms that are, what's super exciting about being Clio is, internally I often describe Clio as our relationship to our customers is like the relationship a McKinsey or a Bain has as a consulting group, a Boston Consulting Group or a McKinsey, where we get to see, who are the 1% of lawyers right now that are truly innovating and operating on the bleeding edge of innovation. And then what we want to do is partner with those firms, really help, be product partners and innovation partners with those firms, and then figure out how do we diffuse that innovation through more of the industry? How do we turn that 1% law firm into the 10% law firm? So I think in a lot of ways, the customers that we're thinking about 5 years from now are the super innovative firms we've partnered with today.
They're the firms in that growth curve.
In that growth curve, if you think about the technology diffusion model, they're the early adopters that we're working with that are doing really crazy things. Like they've, for example, become completely unshackled from bricks and mortar. They're engaging with clients over video chat. They're texting their clients. They have a shared texting platform that they communicate with clients. They have mobile-first experiences with their clients.
I assume if people want to learn more about this, they can get your book, which is coming out very soon.
They can certainly pick up my book and think more. And the book is really less about the technology side and the vision for the technology side, and really just about a mindset around doing client-centered lawyering and how you. And really, what this book is an extension of the learnings I've had in designing, in many ways, a client-centered software company. And
it's hard not to start seeing the world that way. I guess.
And I always think about Mark Andreessen's comment that software is eating the world, and I think software is eating legal, but in a really positive way, where it's actually software is becoming a superpower for the lawyers that figure out how to use it and let them really realize their full potential. And that's ultimately my vision for Clio. What I want to see Clio become as a product. And I'd say today we're innovating on the products. In this Clio lab that we've got happening beside us. We're innovating on what Clio looks like, on 2 or 3 years down the road from today, with the clients today that are just right on the bleeding edge. But we want to make that accessible to everyone.
Yeah, very cool. Thanks so much, Jack.
Thanks, Sam.
It's good talking to you.
You too.
Hi there. I'm here with Mark Britton, the founder of Avo, but now the newest board member of Clio.
That's right.
Hey, Mark.
Thanks for having me at the Lawyerist hub at ClioCon 2019. It's pretty cool to see you and see everything. Just as Clio's grown, Lawyerist has grown as well.
Kind of together, actually. Yeah, it's been neat. So, so why did you decide to join Clio? Were you just getting tired of retirement, or were you inspired by what is it that inspired you to join?
There are a couple of things that came together. I would say it starts with I've known the Clio folks forever and love them as a company. And we've had all sorts of conversations with Clio over the years about how we might work better together. And so I had a really good sense for the Clio business. So that was, relationship with Jack and team, really liking the Clio business and platform, really interested in how it plugs into kind of the supply chain for lawyers. Then the TCV folks, so Technology Crossover Ventures, who were kind of led this whole deal, I've known them since the late 90s.
I see.
They were a big investor in Expedia. And they were also a big investor in Avo. So they came to me and said, hey, do you know the Clio folks? And I was like, of course I do. And that evolved into me helping them think through this deal, which that led to me both helping with the TCV and JMI investment, me investing myself, and then me taking a board seat.
Gotcha, very cool. Is there a particular impact that you hope to have as a board member?
Well, I'm pretty amazing, and I would like to just spray that all over the Clio coaster. No,
Yeah.
I think that one of the hardest things for a CEO is that it's a really lonely place to be.
Yeah.
And so one thing that I'd love to do is just support Jack and the team. And it's a little bit different because I come from an operating background,
Right.
but I also come from a lot of different industries, and I'm spending a lot of time now dealing with investments in a lot of different industries.
Sure.
And so kind of bringing all of that learning as I'm out in different places, bringing all that learning back to Clio and to Jack and say, hey, this is a way that you might think about it.
Right.
It's a place where I just think I can add value and also have a lot of fun and learn from the Clio folks myself.
Yeah.
So it's selfish too, anytime you're on a board, because you get to plug into their business and learn a lot there as well.
I have to ask, given your background, should we be looking forward to Clio building some sort of a consumer-facing lawyer directory? I mean, it feels like, given all the work you did at Avo and all of the experience that you've had for the last, 10-ish years?
Yeah,
12 years at Avo, it feels like that's an obvious question.
I think, I never say never,
Yeah.
but I would think about it in this way. I really believe that consumer-focused platforms, so B2C platforms, they are having, or let's call them marketplaces, any product or service that is consumer-facing, they're having to build out more of a platform on the back end in order to succeed, in order to service their customers. So even something as simple as Amazon, it's just not, it's not selling that widget that Amazon sells, it is continuing the relationship with the customer over time. And that's one of the reasons that something like lawyers plugging into a pre-existing platform like Clio makes so much sense, because in order to serve that customer well, they need a platform, but they can't build it, so they plug into a third-party platform. Okay, on the B2B side, however, B2B products, in order to succeed, in order to differentiate from the competition, have to act more like consumer products. So the best example I can come up with is Slack. Slack blew away the competition, even though it was a completely saturated market in messaging and collaboration within corporations, because they essentially built a Facebooky, a really consumer-like experience within the business. And so I would say one thing, if I can reveal anything, it's that Clio, as it builds out its tools, taking a little bit of that consumery type of thinking, genetic pool, and I contribute to that to help them think about their products
making
in that
B2B
way.
more like B2C.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
And so I do think that there's some overlap in general, but that platform thinking consumer in the same way the consumer has to think of platform, I spend a lot of time in those two things swimming together, and that's where I think I can help.
Very cool. Thank you, Mark.
Sam, it's always a pleasure.